I'm McKinney Smith. After going through a divorce, my sister passing away, experiencing narcissistic abuse, and some significant health scares, I realized through sharing my story that I wasn't alone in my suffering. Suffering, subjective distress generated by the experience of being out of balance. In a deep dive to holistically heal mind, body, and soul is where I discovered peace, clarity, and connection. It is impossible to be truly wise without some real life hardship, and we cannot develop post-traumatic wisdom without making it through, and most importantly, through it together. Social connection builds resilience, and resilience helps create post-traumatic wisdom, and that wisdom leads to hope. Hope for you and others witnessing and participating in your healing, and hope for your community. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. Rachel G is a life and love coach with 17 plus years of experience in dating, relationships, and marriage coaching. Featured on BET, CBS Viacom, and Black Enterprise, she helps singles and couples build fulfilling lives and strong relationships. Rachel has a 100% success rate in saving marriages and is the founder of the I'm Somebody's Wife and Women of Healing, advocating for women's empowerment and healing. She also leads the Next Generation Charm School for at-risk girls and an 18-year public speaker inspiring audiences nationwide. Author of Steps to Heal for Purpose and I'm Somebody's Wife, the 31-Day Journal, Rachel's work reaches over 35 million people monthly through her social media community and private coaching. So please welcome to the show, Rachel G.
Hey, hey, hey.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on and share your journey with us. I honestly, we connected years ago online, and I love taking online connections offline. And I've just been super grateful to be connected to you, been super grateful to be a part of your life, a part of your journey, to see you grow and evolve and how you've been helping others along the way. So I'm just grateful that, the listeners get, I'm going to say, a second chance on this show to hear from you. So thank you.
And thank you so much for having me and this amazing alignment, businessship, networkship, friendship, and most importantly, sistership. I have enjoyed it and blessed by you so many years back and so many years to come.
Amen. Yes. So I feel like it has been, I feel like it was in the first year of the show that I had you on, and we are about to celebrate 6 years. So it's been some time.
Yes.
So before we get to where you are presently and how things have evolved and what you're doing today, I would love if you could share with the listeners a little bit about what you were like as a little girl and what's your earliest childhood memory that defines who you are today.
Wow. As a little girl, it's so funny because I'm often reminded of the little girl in me. As a little girl, I was not one of those kids that just did what everybody wanted me to. I asked questions. If I didn't like something, I vocalized it. Even if I got in trouble for it, I just felt like I had an opinion. I wanted my opinion to be heard. I wanted to express myself. And so I've always been very bold. I've always been one that said what I had to say. And as a little girl, it started out being really disrespectful. And I got in trouble enough to where I found a way for it not to be disrespectful. but I still had to learn how to stay in a child's place.
Mm.
But I still wanted to say what I said. I got in trouble. I got in trouble a lot. But for me, it didn't matter about getting in trouble because I thought to myself, I may get in trouble for this, but the seed has been planted on what I said.
Mm.
And so you heard me. And I
Mhm.
grew up a PK, a pastor's kid.
Mhm.
And there were many times where I didn't like some things and I said what I didn't like because I too wanted to be able to have my parents as well as the church and the congregation having my parents. And although it may have been said in the wrong way, it was heard and it was changed. And so it kind of molded me in who I am today. Those are some of my memories. Me, people call it spoiled, but I call it really standing my ground and
Mhm.
having a voice.
Wow. I always think about the labels we were given as children and how that affects who we become or how we perceive who we are. And I know, like, so having West Indian parents, I know oftentimes for me, like a lot of the things that our parents found or labeled as disrespectful or too much or not okay culturally, in other areas it was fine. You were allowed to do
Hmm.
certain things or it wasn't considered that way. So I love to, I guess, think about, okay, yeah, as kids, say, for example, where you said, you were talkative, so you wanted to be heard and it was considered disrespectful. But now, as the adult version of Rachel, if you look at those traits and those qualities and how you were expressing yourself then, like the similarities of how you express yourself now and how you utilize that to your advantage. Like if you think about, yeah, when you were a kid, yeah, it wasn't okay to do these things. But now as a grown woman, like you're speaking your voice, you're stating your boundaries, you're speaking up for what's right, you're advocating for what's right. Like, I guess the difference in perception, does that make sense?
Hmm. It is. And I'm laughing in the inside because I'm laughing in the inside because I needed my younger me to be who I am today. You
Hmm.
know, I help people. And sometimes I say the things that nobody want to say.
Yeah.
And I don't say it rudely, but I say what people need heard. And it gives people the voice for the brain of millions of people
Hmm.
because I'll say it and they'll be like, oh my God, somebody said it. Thank you. I
Yeah.
didn't know how to express it because I had to learn at a young age to respect my elders, but still say what I need to say.
Hmm.
Now I can say what I need to say respectfully. I pray about it, of course, now.
Hmm.
Back then I would say it and think, but there's levels to it. I've grown in wisdom. And so that is what has also attracts so many people to me because I say what they want to say, but society, life, religion, family, school and workplace says they can't.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I tell them all the time, I am my job.
Yes. Yeah.
I flick my lights on and I notice they're still on. I turn my water on and my water's still running and I pay those bills.
Yeah.
So since I do that, I don't I don't know who is supposed to stop me from saying what I want to say. But but
I'm laughing
somebody
so
has to.
I'm laughing so hard because I can relate completely. And I think it's funny how, as adults, when we have evolved and learned boundaries and learned to use our voice and learned not to put ourselves into these boxes, how other people try to put you back into it. And when you realize,
Mhm.
oh, wait, hold on, you're not paying my bills. Your opinion does not pay my bills.
Hey.
Let me be. let me be. Okay, so I would love to know how society, culture, or your environment has shaped your identity, because we just talked about, like, your upbringing and things like that, but I would love to know how society, culture, or your environment has shaped your identity.
Oh, wow. You know, I'm an introvert by piece, but, I am the life of the party when I'm out. So I'm told. Because everybody says they sit and laugh the whole time. I don't think I'm a comedian. But society has changed so much, and that not only society, but I would look at it as life. Decisions that have been made in life has shaped and cultivated my own society. We have society as a whole when it comes to, especially in the US, when it comes to politics, when it comes to the way of life and living. But when you learn that you have to tap into your purpose and you got to do the work of Him that has sent you, and you tone in on what God wants you to do and the well done that you need, society no longer becomes public, it becomes a personal thing. So my society for me is different. I don't look at what's going on around me. I look at what happened around me to me, if that makes sense. Going through a divorce and traumatic experiences put me in a position to where now my society is my reality of my past. And now I want to live better than the situation I put myself in. And so I haven't, since I went through healing and since I've bounced back to be who I am now, I haven't looked at what's going on in society. I've
Mm,
focused on my personal society, and I've focused on talking about that. And I realized that a lot of people live in my society. So I'm not in theirs because I'm out of theirs. And they're trying to figure out how they could be where I am.
that's powerful.
Everybody now is so depressed, and they're living life just trying to be the next viral or the next thing that looks like they're okay. And so I
Mhm.
didn't want to look like I was okay. I wanted to be okay with not being okay and put myself in a position to be okay.
Yes. Yes.
Everybody wants to go viral for likes, and that likes is either 30 seconds, 90 seconds, now TikTok 10 minutes, or a picture, and people think that your life is great.
Mm-hmm.
I could have walked
Hmm.
around and been married and no one knew it, that I was going through what I was going through. But me being divorced, everybody was like, I would have never known, because you don't look past the picture. You don't look past the video. Like I was telling people, did you not see that I was depressed? I went from 147 pounds to 225.
Wow.
You thought it was happy weight. It was not happy weight. It was, what am I doing? I'm going to chew weight.
Hmm. Listen, people
So,
people will take what they see online, and it could be one picture, and they will create an entire narrative, right? Like,
mhm,
so I understand from the work that I do in mindset. I understand, as people, we think in pictures, but people will create an entire narrative off of a picture. And what I love about what you've done with your journey is how you've always been so transparent, where, whether it be your ups and downs in your weight or your mental health or whatever you're dealing with, you've been transparent in a sense where you're not living by this perception that you have to be perfect at all times in order to be relatable, because none of us are perfect.
mhm. And I'm far from it. You know, Even as a woman of God, I feel like those afflictions, David said it, those afflictions and those transgressions, though they come to, I was telling a client today, you don't understand what you're growing through, because we no longer go through anything. The way it's set up, we're not set up to go through anything. We're set up to grow through it, because there's no losses, there's lessons. And those lessons put us on a new level to be able to help other people who feel like they're losing. Because what we do, you and I, we take what we've been through in years or been through in months and teach people how to cultivate, how to break free and transition out of it in minutes. But
Yes.
somebody has to grow through it in order to help everybody else. And so I think, and a lot of that comes from the first question that you asked, the boldness and the affirmations that I told myself. Kindergarten, I was bullied. And so my mom sat me down and she was like, I need you to speak life into yourself. I've been speaking affirmations to myself since I was a little girl.
Wow.
And I thought my life into existence. I did a YouTube today, live better, think better, and if we live better, we think better, live better. You can only be better when you think better about yourself. And you're only stuck in your situation as long as you think you're stuck in your situation. The man at the pool of Bethesda, he told Jesus when he asked him, "Why aren't you healed?" He said, "Because nobody throws me in there." Too many people are waiting on somebody. When you have
Nobody's coming to
365
save
days,
you.
yes, I told him nobody's coming to save you. This man had 365 days to get in a pool, and he laid there and waited on somebody. But then, as soon as he was healed and whole, he went back to the same group that watched him and didn't even throw him or kick him into the water. Like, we sit and we wait on people when we are the ones that save us. We have to go and ring our own doorbell and get ourselves out of our house. And so that is where I am with people. Like, I had to save myself. There's a choice. For the first time in life, I knew what it was like to be public and spiraling and trying to make it seem like I was okay and I wasn't, and going
Mhm.
through, dysfunctional depression and being functional depressed, and people just applauding me. "You're so anointed. You helped. You do this." I'm thinking to myself, you don't see what I'm going through. I don't even know anything about fertilization of seed right now. I
Wow.
have dry grass, and you're sitting up here telling me how I just shifted your life.
Mm,
And I am like about to go home and drink a whole bottle of champagne and mix tequila with it.
wow.
And so people don't see it, but I thank God that I said, you know what? I am going to sit out, take a break, and I'm going to take the world on the journey as I'm coming out. So every time I was coming out of a place, I was talking about the place. So then when I told people that I was filing for divorce, I was already divorced. And so everybody felt so sorry for me, but I'm like, I'm over it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, but people, they sit and they want people to think they're okay, and that leads to a worse line of depression in their life.
I think so many things. It speaks to, you showing up and that commitment that you've made to yourself, but also I feel like okay, so I'm someone who will share my scars, not my open wounds. So like you said, after you've gone through the thing, that's when you go public about it. Like because when you're deep in it and people are commenting and like they're just making that wound even more painful, right? But
Hmm.
I would love to know, like, okay, what was the most unexpected challenge that you had or that you faced after the divorce, and how did you overcome it?
I think the most unexpected challenge that I faced was leading to the divorce and the divorce. It was like all at once. Realizing that the person that you married never wanted to marry you. Them saying, "I never wanted to marry you. I just wanted to come up. And I couldn't come up with you, so I'm going to try to destroy your life." You know, you can't take away inviting them into everything you have. You brought everything to the table, but you didn't look at it as if you brought everything to the table. You gave them a piece of your pie,
Mhm.
only for them to try to eat the whole pie and get mad at you for asking for a slice.
Mm.
Knowing that the house, everything that you had, the life you built for yourself and your children, they wanted that life for them and their children, and not you and your children. Like, I didn't mind sharing this with you, but you wanted to take it from me, throw me out of the equation, and then just you and your children enjoy it as if you built it. That for me, and then being at a place to where I had my home and you came to my home.
Yeah.
I had my home, and I still think about when you asked me where the restroom was, and I was like, what?
Canadian versus American language. Where's the bathroom?
Yes, yes.
I
I
said,
was
where's the
like,
bathroom?
what, what is where? But after the day of my divorce, walking into my house and realizing that I had a home that was worth $375,000, and now the home is worth less than 100,000 because this
Wow.
person destroyed it.
Wow.
And telling a contractor telling me that the damages were $77,000, and me
Wow.
knowing I only owed 89,000 on my house, and then having banks call me and tell me, hey, guess what? You need to pay this amount of thousands because he just went and got as much money he could get back from the bank and the taxes. And so I was facing foreclosure. I was over I was over the amount of what I owed on the house. And I tried to save it, but I realized I was trying to save it to prove something to him. And I'm not in the proving
Mm.
lifestyle anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called a few people and said, house is in one of the best neighborhoods, big house, it was great for the market. And I called a few people and said, I'm about to sell my house sight unseen. First, I had someone to come out and she said, you may walk away with $20,000
Wow.
if you do this, if a realtor does this, because he's taken a lot from you. And so I reached out to a few investors that I knew, and I said, hey, I'm selling my house sight unseen. And one of them gave me an offer that I could not refuse. It was over double than what I owed, and pay the house off. And that was a part of my bounce back. But I had to put my mind there. I had to tell myself, you will not stop, here. If your affirmation was you were going to, pay your house off, it doesn't matter how the house gets paid off. If you have to sell it to pay it off, sell it to pay it off. I managed to still do all of my affirmations, complete all of my goals. One of them was to sell my house. I mean, not to sell my house, to pay my house off before the due date. I did that. May not have been like I wanted to, but I wrote them a check for over 80,000.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me was because that house was for my children. No matter where I lived in the world, I wanted that to be something that they had. And for me, everything I built from the ground up, I was on food stamps and housing, and I built the life that I have with God's direction. And someone came in who didn't mean me any good and had no intentions on loving me, not even as a friend, came in and tried to destroy everything I had. So that for me was something where I was like, oh my God, that is crazy.
Listen, I am so sorry that you experienced that. Like, I was at the wedding. That I feel like every time I hear more parts of your story, I slightly get triggered because the guy that I came to your wedding with put me through that same thing.
Listen, yes.
And I've talked about my experience on this podcast enough, so I'm not even gonna go there. But I mean, I know that there are women that are listening that are like, "What? Like, how? How did you? How did you even?" Aside from the affirmations and having God as your foundation, like how did you even rebuild your self-worth after that? Because it's like one thing is realizing, okay, the person that you married didn't actually want to marry you or doesn't even know how to love. But when these people financially abuse you, spiritually abuse you, the mental, emotional manipulation, like all of these things, like how, like what were some of the key steps in rebuilding your self-worth after being in such a relationship?
Therapy.
Speak it, girl.
I
I
I
still go
started
every week.
I did too. I started therapy, believe it or not, in 2020. I realized I made a mistake, and I was not in the marriage that God wanted me to be in. It was off to me. But I'm in the public eye. You know, I'm doing matchmaking shows for BET. I'm doing all these things. And so maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just where I am. Maybe I need to fix me. So I started therapy. I started therapy for the marriage. I started therapy to try to save the marriage and figure out what was going on. And the more I tried to work on the marriage and then try to even work on me, if there was anything, the worse the marriage got in turn and just spiraled. And so I remember telling my therapist, I no longer want to work on saving my marriage. I want to work on saving me. And she told me, she says, well, I don't think that's what you should do. I think you should work on saving your marriage. And I said, well, this will be our last session. I prayed about it, hired another therapist. Within 5 minutes of our conversation, I never told her that I wanted to save me. I told her where I was, and she said, well, we're about to work on saving you. And I instantly knew that that was a connection. I'm getting chills now. I instantly knew that that was a connection for me to start working on me. So I started therapy, leaving out of the marriage before I even filed for divorce. I filed for divorce on our anniversary day. I said,
Wow.
because you never wanted to marry me, I don't want this anniversary being a day where I remember the marriage. It's my divorcery. And so I filed for my divorce on the day that we got married. But therapy didn't stop from there. I went through every line of therapy that I could. I called all my clients, told all my clients, because I'm a relationship expert. I'm helping people, save their marriage, and nobody's knowing anything because their life is great. And I told them, I said, I need to take a break. I need to take a break. And I don't know what this looks like for this year, but I don't want to coach right now. And there were times in coaching where I said, this isn't for me. I don't even want to do this anymore. I was going to start just digital marketing and digital products, and that was it. I had no plans on coming back to coach, to speak, to help, to preach, to do anything. I wanted to live a life just by myself and behind my computer and making money that way. But that had nothing to do with being hurt. It's just that my life was so busy and congested with people, and I wanted to be by myself. It was loud, and I wanted peace, but I didn't realize that the part of my journey was going to be needed for the future, but there is a time where I needed peace. So I tell anybody, you got to stop. It's just like driving and the sun is shining and the rain comes out of nowhere and you cannot see what's in front of you. You got to pull over. Because sometimes when it's raining really hard in a storm, no matter how fast you do your windshield wipers, the rain is still going to come and you can't see in front of you. And if you're not careful, you can crash. So it's best to sit on the side of the road and wait on the rain to die down before you get back on the road. Let it clear. Because if you let it clear, you at least have your life. And so I got on the side of the road because I needed to let the life and the storm of my life clear so that I can know who I was again and appreciate everything. It was so much noise. It was every day having someone wake you up, even not living in the same room, but under the same roof, wake you up to curse you out. Coming to wake you up before they go to bed to curse you out. Everything is an argument, and you're just listening or reading your Bible, and it's an issue. And so for me, it was so chaotic that I just wanted to be by myself. From January of this year all the way until June, I didn't go anywhere, didn't go out to eat. I did a self-reset. It was the best thing I could have ever done in life.
So there are so many important key points that I heard there that I just want to, I guess, reiterate for the listeners in case they missed it. Like, one, I think it's very important that you choose a therapist that is the best fit for you. And it is possible to outgrow the therapist that you're working with. So that the first therapist that you were working with that didn't align with your vision of now focusing on you, but then when you found another therapist and they realized immediately that that was the focus. Like, it's important to have the right therapist, not just any old therapist will do.
Mhm.
So that was one thing I heard. Two is, when you're trying to leave a situation that is extremely chaotic, focusing on peace and what brings you peace. Three, I heard, you talked about slowing down, especially when you talked about the analogy of the rain in the windshield. I think oftentimes when we're in situations or when we're going through a thing, people tend to speed things up. Oh, I have to do this now. I have to, like, they're trying to add things to their
Mhm.
plate instead of taking things off. And when you are in fight or flight mode, your brain doesn't have the capacity to even handle all the things that are on it. So adding more is actually not helpful to us. We do need to slow down, take some things off our plate, regulate our nervous system, and give our bodies a chance to recover. And like you said lastly, like the reset, like there are so many. And I also feel like this, I hear this a lot when it comes to people in ministry or people that are entrepreneurs, but it's like they feel guilty for the rest and reset. And
Mhm.
we're not machines. We're not programmed, to keep going constantly, to be producing 24/7. We are human beings. We do need the rest to restore. We do need the rest to reset, the rest to recover. And I think if we understand that, then we'll feel less guilty about the rest that we
Right.
take. It's like someone who goes to the gym and they're working out a certain body part. They tell you after you've worked that body part to give that body part rest and work a different body part the next time you go, because that's where the growth actually happens, in the rest. So if you don't give yourself that chance to rest, you're not going to get the growth that you're looking for. So you said some very key things there. I just wanted to reiterate those things to the listeners.
Listen, if they don't learn anything else, here in Texas, we're very country, and we tell people, "Girl, sit down somewhere. Sit down. It's okay to sit down. Be- just take your rest.
Yes.
Because it's needed. Because not only will you this week on my YouTube, I do a lot on my daily dose. I do a lot of affirmations, motivation, and inspiration, and I'm helping women gather back to themselves. But one of the major things that's been really big is realizing you need you more than they do.
Yep.
You have to take time for yourself. Whatever they need, if you're not there, because going too fast, your mind can only do so much. Your
Mhm.
mind, your body, no matter how much you try to overwork yourself to forget about the pain that you have, your stress levels go up.
Yep.
I had an anxiety attack and went in stroke mode 3 times during my divorce and didn't even
Wow.
know it.
Wow.
Nobody but God kept me from going into a stroke mode. It got to a point to where I was going to my doctor every other month to make
Mhm.
sure that everything was down. I no longer take blood pressure medicine. I went from
Wow.
having to take it, it was a must because both of my numbers were in the 100s at all times. Never, ever was low. And a part of that was sit down because you're going to overwork your body. Once your nerves and you go through things, if you don't sit down, it keeps going. It doesn't stop. And we don't understand that about our body. We try to go through things and try to make it seem like I'm going to make myself busy so no one knows that I'm hurting. Your body does.
Yep.
Because if you don't rest and go to sleep, your body's going to keep doing it. It wasn't until I stopped and sat down and stopped trying to make myself busy and set in my problems. And when it was time to cry, I cried. When it was time to plan, I planned. I did those things. And slowly my doctor was like, your stress levels are down. What are you doing different? I said, I'm doing nothing. She says, you got to be doing something. I said, no, I'm doing nothing. That's
Literally.
what's different. I am sitting down. You do not see me. I'm not pulling up to the scene with my ceiling missing. I am nowhere. I cook my own food. I change my diet of fruits and vegetables. I don't want to be anywhere out in public. I sat down. And that's what we got to do. Just give yourself
Listen.
at least 90 days of it.
I think people don't realize I want to say, the importance of processing your hurt, your feelings, your trauma, your grief. Because when we don't, and for a lot of us, because we're so used to being these workhorses that don't stop, and part of our anxiety is like we got to keep going and keep busy. But if we don't process, our body, like you said, our body knows. The body is listening to everything that is going on in the mind, and it starts to show up in different areas. And part of my healing process, like my therapist recommended that I go see a massage therapist, that I go to a chiropractor, I had to go through all of these different things because my heart rate, my resting heart rate was almost regularly at 100, which was way too high. Like all of the signs of stress were showing throughout my body, but I was still
Mhm.
showing up, doing everything consistently. So I was like, I got to keep going. I don't, I don't want to feel, but it wasn't helpful. So we actually have to process our feelings, because stress is a killer. Like you said, you were in stroke mode. Your body was just like, girl, I'm not okay. So you
Mhm.
taking that time to actually do nothing was probably, one of the key things that helped save you. But also you talked about how, doing things for other people, and it's like, I have this saying where I'm like, their emergency is not my emergency. So part of my healing journey is I step back from being accessible to everyone. So even though I'm on social, even though, people have certain quote unquote expectations of me, my phone stays on do not disturb forever. Like,
Okay.
only my kids and my man get through do not disturb. So my
That is
phone rings,
it.
it's straight to voicemail. You're not going to throw me off of I could be having a great day and someone wants to call me with their drama and their, oh, I need this or I need that. But then they never do the same for me in return. So I learned to stop making everyone else's emergency my emergency. That also includes my clients. They all schedule calls. You can't just call me when you feel like it. Like setting certain boundaries to realize all these things were actually triggering my anxiety. It was keeping my heart rate up. It was actually doing more harm to me than I realized. So putting certain boundaries in place. Yeah. I
Listen, yeah, and those. Mhm.
No, I was going to say, I would actually love to know, like, what role did your support system play in your healing and moving forward? Because we were talking about like other people.
My support system really got on my nerves. I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for it. They would never leave me like alone while I was in the process of everything. They would sit on the phone with me. Like somebody was on the phone with me at all times until they heard me snoring. And I was like, listen, I am fine. And they're like, no. Like they would be at work. I would have friends at work with their earbuds in and they'll be doing their job,
Wow.
just making sure that I was okay. Everybody took turns. And when I finally told them, hey, I just need to be by myself, I'm fine. I just don't want any noise. And January, I talked to no one. My kids came and things like that, but I didn't talk to anyone. Everybody knew that I was going to reset in January. And it's funny, you talked about massages and things. My therapist told me to go out and get a plant,
Mm.
and I became addicted. I'm
Mhm.
about to
Me
plant
too.
some ginger root. I'm about to plant some ginger root in a minute. I'm just like, you know what? Fruit and vegetables are moving and have their own bodies now.
Yeah.
Bananas are swarming. I'm just gonna, plant my own, my whole house. Green became my favorite color. Everything's green. I have greenery everywhere. And it taught me so much about me.
Mm.
Watching it grow brought growth within my life.
Yes.
And taking a piece of vine, putting it in water, and watching it rebirth from nothing, it was my new me. And my support system supported me in my ways. They were there and they saw, okay, this is a woman of God who would pray and prophesy and cast out demons, and now she's drunk and high, like really going through it. And this is
Mhm.
not where she wants to be, behind closed doors. And
Mhm.
so they really wanted to be there for me. And some of them, they would come and see me and I'd be like, look, and I'm very transparent. I'd be smoking and talking to them and everything else. And they supported me. They never said,
Yeah.
you need
No
to snap
judgment.
out. You need to, they
Yeah.
let me be me.
Mhm.
They let me be me. And I knew they would come around me with blessed oil and everything else because that would be my time. I had so much chaos going on in my mind. And what made me really, really, just really key into therapy is because I could only talk to God when I was high. When I
Wow.
would try to pray, everything else. It was just so much that
Wow.
was going on. I was beating myself up. How did I get here? How was I here and I'm here? Why? How am I being tortured and nobody sees it? I'm having a video and voice note and record myself so people can believe that this man is who he say he is. And all of that was going on while trying to not show hundreds of thousands and millions of people on social media that anything was going on in my life.
Wow. Wow. I feel like okay, so I for the most part, I feel like okay, social media can be what we make it. And I feel like for the most part, social media has been a positive, but there are seasons where I'm just like I feel like the need or the desire one from the people who are watching for access and information about someone's personal life. Sometimes I don't understand it. And then on the flip side, where it's like, yeah, you're going through something, you're being traumatized, you're hurt, you're grieving, you're processing, and the world is watching. And like you said, there were
Mhm.
times where you're like, did nobody not realize that I'm depressed, or does nobody not? But I think again, because people have their own perceptions and their view of life based on their own experiences, for many people, you know, they may not have put two and two together with your story because they were putting things together with their own narratives. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so for the people who are listening, what advice would you offer to someone who is struggling to break free from, the type of trauma bond that can be associated with I don't want to label your situation, but I know there's a lot of listeners that have gone through narcissistic abuse. They've gone through mental abuse, psychological abuse, spiritual abuse, financial abuse. What advice would you offer to someone who is struggling to break free from that?
The first thing that I would tell them is the only way you're going to break free is if you mentally break free first. Don't go get your body done. Don't go buy a new bag. Don't go buy red bottoms. Don't go and buy your way into happiness. Don't even try to eat your way, nothing. Look yourself in the mirror every day and talk life into yourself. I tell my clients all the time, write down where you are, what you're feeling. And beside that, write something positive. The only way I am a writer, I keep tablets everywhere. I refuse to let something stay in my mind. I refuse to let something weigh in me because it can seem like it's not something that's there, but you begin to spiral out of control and you're like, where did this come from? I'm having
Mhm.
an identity crisis. No, it's been there. You just ignored it every single time.
The
I
suppression.
reevaluate myself every single day. Did
Mhm.
I have a good day? Did I give everybody the love that they needed, not the love that I think I needed people to give me? Because
Mhm.
my level of love that I need may not be somebody else's level of love that they need. So
Right.
it's not about treating people the way you want to be treated, it's treating them the way they want to be treated.
Yes.
And I reevaluate myself every day. And that allows me to be able to think outside of the thoughts that are negative. You know,
Mhm.
Philippians 4, I think it's 4 and 8. Whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are just. You have to think on these things. And so you and your thoughts control your future, your present, and your life. If
Mm.
you get your mind right, the rest of it will flow. So a lot of people don't want to think about the things they're in, so they want to try to work through it. Write it down, know where you are, be real with yourself, begin to speak life into things that you see that are feeling dead or that dead or dying. And things are going to come and happen. But if you speak into your life, you'll find yourself picking yourself up and seeing yourself the way you need to.
Mhm.
And for me, once you do that, that is what kept me being able to fight a narcissist, manipulator, an abuser, mental. That's why my mind was never engulfed and I never lost myself.
Mm.
May have lost things, and I've gotten all of that back, then some. But I
Mm.
never lost the common denominator to get the things back, which was me, because I was told if you function differently, I would be okay. You are too strong for me.
Mm.
So you and your mind, it's what's needed for you to continue to succeed. Start getting your mind right, affirmate. And then you'll get yourself together to say, okay, I need a therapist. Okay,
Mm.
I need to work out. Okay, I need to do this. And
Wow.
then things will flow.
Wow. So yeah, like I love that you spoke to like the journaling piece and getting things out and not allowing things to sit, because I think people don't realize that when you suppress those emotions, they go like it's not that it's just sitting there, you're not dealing with it. It's being absorbed within the body. It's affecting your health physically. It's affecting your feelings, your thoughts. It's affecting you in so many ways that you don't even realize. So it's important that you actually express rather than suppress, to get
Mm-hmm.
out what is going on, so that you're not harboring those negative toxic emotions that are, causing us to have the self-doubt, the worry, the fear, the negative self-talk, all those other things. So before we go to the final segment of the show, I would love if you could tell the listeners where they could stay connected with you and learn more from you and about you.
Absolutely. You can go to my website, www.rachel, RACHELG as in goat, RachelG.life, not .com, not .r, not .net. I like to help people live the life that they deserve. So I saw life being one. So it's .life. I'm also on all social media platforms, the real underscore Rachel G. That's THEREAL underscore RACHELG. And that's where you can find me. All of the same.
Awesome. Awesome. So the final segment is kind of like a rapid fire. You can say the first thing that comes to mind. You can answer one word or one sentence, but if you feel the need to expand, you're more than welcome to do so.
Okay.
Okay. If you could create one law that everyone in the world had to follow, what would that be?
Love. To love everybody.
Love it. If you could live in a book, movie, or TV show, what would it be?
I don't know. I don't really watch TV.
Okay, what about a book?
Think rich. Think rich. Grow rich.
Think and Grow Rich?
Think,
Yeah,
think and grow rich and Napoleon Hill.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. What would the little version of Rachel be proud of you for?
Because she kept talking. She didn't let
Mm.
anybody silence her. And she kept saying what needed to be said. And she stayed bold.
Mm. Okay. What's your most repeated thought in a day?
You're really here.
Mm. Okay.
You're really here. Yeah.
What would you say is your superpower?
Healing.
Love it. Okay. What do you wish women would do more of?
Know their worth.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Rachel, for taking the time to join us today. Thank you for your transparency, for your gems. Thank you for, I'm going to say, healing out loud. There's a lot of people that will heal in silence, and your story is not only an inspiration and a blueprint for others, but it's also a reminder for yourself of your strength, of your healing, and of the greatness that is within you. So thank you for just being who you are.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for making it so easy. Just a sister conversation. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you always. And to all of you listeners out there, until next time, subscribe on all platforms. Don't forget to rate the show and leave us a review in Apple Podcast. And I want to thank each and every one of you that continues to listen each week for the last 6 years to help the show rank globally in the top 1.5% of most popular podcasts out there. And there's over 3 million shows out there. So you could be listening to any of those right now, but you're here listening with us. So we want to hear what your moments were. We want to hear what part of Rachel's story resonated with you most. We want to hear what gems you took away from hearing Rachel's story. Feel free to screenshot this week's episode, and you can tag Rachel at @the_Rachel IG. You can tag myself at @TheRealMcKinney-Smith. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. So let's continue to heal her.